Hey everyone. Before we dive into today's story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is there. It really helps YouTube recommend more stories like this one to you. Alright, let's jump right in.
The first time I heard the footsteps outside my door, it was 2:17 a.m. exactly. Not 2:16, not 2:18. Remember checking the clock on my stove, glowing that soft green in the dark. I was in the kitchen, microwaving leftover noodles after a rough night. The footsteps came slow, deliberate, and stopped right in front of my door. I froze. Just stood there with the microwave humming behind me, holding my breath. No knock. No movement, just stillness on the other side of the door. After maybe 30 seconds, I crept over and looked through the peephole. Nothing. The hallway was empty. I didn't think too much of it at first. Old buildings make noise. Neighbors come home drunk. It happens. But when the same thing happened the next night, same time, same exact rhythm of footsteps, that's when I started getting that tight feeling in my chest, like something had noticed me. The building I live in is nothing special. Mid-rise, older, kind of beat up, but it's cheap and the location's decent. I moved in 5 months ago after my breakup. Just needed somewhere to land and breathe. My apartment is 4A. Across the hall is 4B. Here's the thing. I've never seen anyone come in or out of 4B, not once. No packages. No light from under the door. No music, no TV. It's like a storage closet pretending to be an apartment. So on the third night, when I heard the footsteps again, 2:17 on the dot, I waited by the door. Silently, I was sure this time they stopped at 4B. I leaned closer, pressing my ear gently against the cool wood, holding my breath. Then I heard it, click, a lock turning. Then another, like whoever was inside 4B had just unlocked the door, but didn't open it. I stepped back instinctively, heart thudding. But nothing happened. The door never opened. Silence settled again. I didn't sleep that night. Over the next few days, I tried to forget about it. I kept telling myself it's just an old building. Thin walls. Maybe someone has weird sleep habits. But then the smell started. It was faint at first. A sickly sweet metallic tang that wafted out into the hallway. Not constant, just waves of it, usually late at night. I thought maybe someone left trash out, or had some kind of plumbing issue. I asked the landlord. He looked up from his phone and blinked at me. 4B? He repeated. That place is empty. No, it's not. Someone's been there every night. He shook his head slowly, as if I didn't understand the rules of reality. No, I mean empty. No one's rented it in over 6 years. I laughed awkwardly. You're messing with me. Wish I was, he muttered. Then added, lady who used to live there, she died. Bad situation. I sealed it off myself. You shouldn't be hearing anything from in there. After that, I stopped sleeping. Every night, 2:17 a.m. came like a clockwork curse. I tried blasting music. Didn't help. I slept with the lights on. Still heard the footsteps. Once, I turned the deadbolt at 2:16, just to feel safe. But right after the footsteps passed, I heard a soft tap on my door. Not a knock. Just a touch. Like fingertips brushing the wood. When I looked through the peephole, I swear I saw someone standing outside 4B, only for a second. A blur. Like they were stepping inside and closing the door, just as I looked. That's when I started recording. I set up my phone in the hallway, propped against the wall with a motion detection app. The next morning, the video was gone. Not corrupted. Not blank. Gone. The file never existed, apparently. The app said there had been no motion, except I woke up to muddy footprints right outside. My door. Bare footprints. Small, almost like a child's. On the 6th night. I snapped. I waited until morning and knocked on 4B myself. No answer, of course. But as I turned to leave, I noticed something. The peephole on 4B's door, it was covered. From the inside. Taped over. Why cover a peephole? Unless someone was trying to keep something in. I don't know why I did it. Maybe I was sleep deprived. Maybe I was desperate. But I went back to my apartment, grabbed a fork, and jammed it into the edge of 4B's lock. It popped surprisingly easy. The door creaked open half an inch, I swear. The air that came out felt wrong. Cold and stale and thick, like a room that hadn't been opened in years. But it also smelled like perfume. Old lady perfume. The kind my grandma used to wear. Hello? I whispered. Nothing. I pushed the door open all the way. The apartment was pitch black, not dark, black, like all light was swallowed in the entryway. I stepped inside, hand on my phone flashlight, and the second I clicked it on, the door behind me slammed shut. I screamed and spun around, grabbing the knob, but it wouldn't budge. Deadbolt was back in place. From the outside. How is that possible? My flashlight flickered. I held it steady, backing away from the door, trying to calm my breathing. The floor was covered in plastic. Clear sheets, stuck to the tiles, sticky in places, like someone had peeled tape off it too many times. And the walls were covered in mirrors. Old, spotted mirrors. Every single one mismatched, some cracked, some fogged with age. Dozens of them. Some leaning, some nailed to the wall, reflecting my shaking light 1,000 different ways. It felt like I wasn't alone in there. And in one of the mirrors, near the far end of the room, I thought I saw something move. Not a person, a reflection of me, but wrong. My double tilted their head. Just a little. But I hadn't moved. Then they smiled. Part 2. The thing in the mirror tilted its head farther, like it was studying me. Like it was waiting for me to react. I took a shaky breath and whispered, "That's not me." My voice sounded small in the plastic-wrapped room. Too small. Every reflection around me trembled, just a little, as if the glass shivered at the sound. I backed away from the far mirror. My sneakers made this sticky sound on the floor, like something tacky had dried there long ago. The air smelled old, like dust and perfume, and something faintly metallic. The kind of scent that sits in your throat. My flashlight flickered again. "Come on, don't do this," I whispered to it, tapping the side. When I looked up, the reflection was gone. It wasn't me. Or maybe it was? Every mirror showed a version of myself, all slightly off. One made me look taller. Another made my eyes too big. Another showed a shadow behind me that wasn't actually there. I felt watched from every angle. I spun toward the door and grabbed the handle again, twisting until my wrist hurt. Still locked. Still impossible. I pressed my forehead to the wood, trying to breathe. Then I heard the footsteps. Not outside. Inside. Slow. Dragging steps. Coming from deeper in the apartment. I turned, lifting the flashlight, but the beam shook from how badly my hands were trembling. "Hello?" I called. Stupid. I knew it was stupid the second the word left my mouth. The footsteps stopped, right next to me. Close enough that I felt the tiny shift of air on my arm. But nothing was there. At least. Nothing I could see. In the nearest mirror. Though in the bottom corner I saw a shape. Low to the ground. Like someone crouched behind me. I spun again. Nothing. The plastic on the floor crackled softly, like someone else had shifted their weight. I swallowed hard. "Okay," I whispered. Okay. The mirrors were messing with my head. I knew that. Low light, reflections. Panic my brain could be filling in the rest. But then why did the temperature drop so suddenly that I could see my breath? I forced myself farther into the apartment, keeping the flashlight trained on the floor so I wouldn't catch anything in my peripheral vision. The mirrors made everything worse. Every direction looked wrong. Every movement doubled and tripled itself. There was a living room area, kind of. Or it had been once. The wallpaper was peeling. Old furniture was shoved to the sides, draped with white sheets like ghosts, frozen in place. And in the center of the room was a folding table. On it sat a row of cassette tapes, all unlabeled, all dusty except one recently touched. A recorder sat beside them, the kind with big clunky buttons from the 90s. My throat tightened. Something inside me said, don't play that. But I was already reaching for the newest tape. My fingers were cold on the plastic. It felt heavier than it should. I slid it in, pressed play. Static at first. Then breathing. Slow, wet sounding, close to the mic. I froze. Then a woman's voice whispered, barely audible, don't turn around. All the mirrors behind me shifted at the same time. Not physically, but the reflections did. Like something was moving in them. I felt pressure on the back of my neck. Not a touch. Not warm, cold, like someone exhaling against my skin. I couldn't help it. I turned. Nothing was behind me, but the mirror to my left showed someone standing inches away. Someone with long, tangled hair. Pale skin, no expression. Eyes too wide and too dark. I stumbled back, my breath catching. The cassette kept playing soft, broken words. He comes at 2:17. He watches through the glass. He copies, he learns. The footsteps started again. From the hall? No, from inside the walls themselves. Slow, like someone was dragging their feet along drywall. I shook my head. This isn't real. The recorder crackled sharply. The woman's voice spoke again. Louder this time. He's behind the mirrors. Something slammed the other side of the wall hard enough to shake dust. Loose, I ran. I dodged around a mirror, leaning on the ground, and pushed into what should have been a bedroom. The door creaked open, revealing an empty space. Except for the bed. It was made too neatly. Plastic covering the mattress. Like the floor. Like someone expected a mess and wanted easy cleanup. My stomach dropped. Against the far wall, carved into the plaster with something sharp, was a message. He watches who moves different. I didn't understand it at first. Then I noticed my reflection in the cracked mirror across from the bed. I blinked. The first time I heard someone crying through the walls, I was brushing my teeth. It was faint, softer than a whisper, but definitely there, sobbing. Not loud, not dramatic. Just broken. Like someone had been crying for hours and didn't have anything left in them. I turned off the faucet to be sure. And yeah, it was still there. Muffled from the left side of the bathroom, which was weird, because that wall didn't connect to another apartment. At least not directly. The layout of this building is kind of a mess. Think patchwork renovations and paper-thin walls. But from what I knew, that wall backed up to a supply closet in the hallway. I pressed my ear to the tile. The crying paused. Then a faint, wet inhale, and a voice hoarse and quiet. Please. Stop. My heart flipped. I jerked back from the wall. I stood there, toothbrush in hand, just staring. The air felt suddenly heavy, like I was standing in a room that didn't want me there. I didn't sleep that night. I moved into this apartment 2 months ago. It's not great. Paint's peeling, plumbing's moody, and the building gives off that it's been through things kind of vibe. But it was cheap, and after a long stretch of couch surfing post-breakup, I needed my own space. Even if it was a little haunted looking, I never really saw my neighbors. Most of them kept to themselves, which I liked. I work remotely, so I'm home almost all the time, and the silence suited me. At least until the crying started. It didn't happen every night. That made it worse. Some nights were dead quiet. Some had soft crying, always from the same spot, always behind the bathroom wall. A few times, I heard it in the middle of the day, too. Just a short burst, maybe 30 seconds. Then silence again. Once, I knocked on the wall, just to see that the crying stopped. Then very faintly, someone knocked back, 3 times, soft, deliberate. I remember staring at the tiles for so long that my legs went numb from sitting on the cold floor. I wanted to believe it was pipes, that some weird plumbing quirk was echoing from a neighbor's unit. But I knew in my gut that wasn't it. That one night, I finally worked up the nerve to ask someone. The woman in 4D, nice older lady with a small dog that barks at everything, was coming up the stairs while I was checking my mail. I tried to play it casual. "Hey, do you ever hear weird noises? Like crying? Through the walls?" She gave me this strange look. Not confused, not surprised, just distant. Then she said, "You live in 4B, right?" "Yeah." She nodded slowly, as if that explained everything. Then, "Don't worry. The building makes noises. It's just old." She said it like a line she'd rehearsed 100 times. The crying got worse after that. Louder, less human. Sometimes it sounded like one voice. Other times, like more than one. A man and a woman. Or a child. Always muffled, always pleading. And sometimes, I swear it wasn't words. Just this horrible sound. Like someone trying to talk with a mouth full of water. Once I was in the shower when it started. The steam made everything feel close, claustrophobic. I turned the water off, heart pounding, and just stood there dripping, listening. The crying was right behind the wall, closer than ever. I whispered, "Are you okay?" And I swear to God, I heard a voice whisper back, "Open it." That night I dreamed about the wall. I was peeling back the tiles one by one. Behind them wasn't drywall, it was flesh. Pale, veiny, damp. And when I pressed my hand against it, something inside shifted, like it felt me. I woke up gasping. The crying was already happening. After that, I started asking questions. I went to the landlord, this guy named Mitch, mid-40s. Too chill for someone managing a literal nightmare building. I asked if someone lived behind 4B, or if the supply closet had pipes that carried sound from another floor. He shrugged. "No units on the other side. That's just a dead space. Utility shaft, old venting, nothing major. But I hear someone back there." He gave me this look, like he knew something, but didn't want to say it. Then he said, "This building's old. You hear things. Best not to dwell on it. Best not to dwell on it." I tried ignoring it, I really did. Headphones, white noise machines, sleeping pills. But nothing helped, because every time it started again, I could not hear it. The crying felt personal. Like whoever was on the other side wasn't just making noise. They were trying to reach me. I started recording at night. Just voice memos on my phone. Most of them caught nothing. But one night, it worked. It was around 2:30 a.m. I played the audio back the next morning. At first it was static, then breathing, then the crying, then faint. Almost too soft to hear, a voice. Behind the mirror. "Help me." I dropped my phone. My bathroom mirror is mounted directly on the wall where the crying always comes from. Stared at it for a long time that morning. And then I did something really stupid. I took it down. It was surprisingly easy. Just a couple brackets. When I lifted it off, the drywall behind it looked normal, a little cracked, slightly darker in one spot. But normal. But when I knocked on it, soft. Testing. It didn't sound solid. It sounded hollow. Worse, I felt a draft. Cold air. Coming from a seam near the corner. I pried at it with a screwdriver until a chunk of drywall crumbled away, and behind it, I saw a space, a gap, a small, dark void between the walls, like an old crawl space that had never been sealed. It was maybe 2 feet wide. Just enough for someone to crawl into. If they really wanted to. I haven't looked inside. Not yet, but last night, I left my phone recording again. Just in case. I haven't listened to the full audio yet, but this morning, I checked the beginning. Right around 2:33 a.m., there's a voice. Not crying. Not whispering. Just talking. Calm. Flat. Very close to the microphone. It says, "You found the hole. Now let me out." Part 2. I didn't press play again for the rest of the morning. My hands were shaking too much. Just sat on the edge of the tub with the mirror on the floor beside me, staring at the hole I'd opened in the wall. The air that seeped out was cold. Not cool, not drafty cold, like the inside of a freezer. It smelled faintly like mildew and something metallic. Like old blood. Every part of me was screaming to put the mirror back up and pretend none of this was happening, but I couldn't. Not after the voice on the recording said, "You found the hole. Now let me out." Not after weeks of crying and knocking and whispers. Not after all the nights I spent lying awake, imagining someone trapped behind the wall with me inches away, listening. So around 4 p.m., after working up the courage and downing 2 shots of cheap whiskey, I grabbed a flashlight, my phone, and a mask because the inside of the wall smelled like 1,000 sealed-off basements. I crouched in front of the hole. The gap behind the drywall looked pitch dark. Too dark. My flashlight's beam seemed to die the second it touched the opening, like the shadows swallowed the light. I took a slow breath. "Hello?" I whispered. Something shifted inside, not loudly. Not dramatically. Just a tiny sound, like fabric brushing against wood. I felt my skin pull tight. "Okay," I said, my voice thin. "Okay, I'm coming in." I don't know why I said that, why I thought it made sense. But I got on my stomach and pushed my upper body through the hole. The space was narrow, maybe 2 feet wide, just like I'd guessed. Enough to crawl inside sideways. I shined my flashlight down the shaft. The light hit dust, pipes, old wiring, and something else. Scratches. Deep. Frantic scratches all along the wooden beams. My stomach flipped. Someone had clawed the inside of this crawl space, hard enough to shred their nails. I almost backed out right then. But something further down caught my eye, a glint of metal, a padlock, attached to a small, rusted gate. Why would a crawl space have a gate? Why would it be locked? My heartbeat thudded in my ears as I army crawled deeper. The air got colder the further I went. My phone buzzed once, low battery, but I ignored it. When I reached the small gate, I noticed the lock was already broken. Not recently. The metal had snapped long ago, rusted through, which meant whoever had been behind it had gotten out. My breath turned shaky. I whispered, "Is someone here?" The silence that followed wasn't really silent. There was breathing in it, slow, damp, the sound of someone holding their breath so they wouldn't be heard. I aimed my flashlight through the broken gate. What I saw made my bones feel hollow. There were blankets, old ones, dirty ones, piled in a corner like a nest. Beside them were small objects, bottle caps, a spoon, one single earring, a child's plastic bracelet, a lighter, a cracked photograph frame with the picture missing, and on the floor, a phone. My flashlight trembled as I reached for it. It was an older model, dusty, dead. When I wiped the screen with my sleeve, I saw a name etched into the case with something sharp. EMMA. The name hit me like a punch. Last year, before I moved in, I read something online about a missing woman in this neighborhood named Emma Santos. 29 years old. Vanished from her apartment. No leads. I'd forgotten about it until now. My voice came out barely audible. "Were you Emma?" As if answering, the beam of my flashlight sputtered. Then something touched my ankle, cold, soft, light. I kicked backward reflexively, slamming into the wall of the crawl space. My flashlight slipped from my hand and clattered against the wood. When I grabbed it, breath trembling, I shined it toward the blankets. A face peered back at me. For a second, My brain refused to understand what I was seeing. She was too pale, too thin. Her eyes were wide and glassy, like she hadn't seen light in forever. Her hair hung in tangled ropes around her shoulders, and she wasn't blinking. Because they weren't her eyes, they were reflections. I was staring at a mirror. I first heard the scratching in the ducts the night after I moved in. It wasn't loud. Just the soft, uneven scrape coming from inside the vent above the kitchen cabinets, like nails dragging slowly across metal. Not constant. Just enough to make you stop mid-chew and think, what the hell was that? My brain went straight to rat, which wasn't ideal, but I'd lived in older buildings before. Rats, mice. Maybe a raccoon, it happens. But then I realized something. The scratching only started after I turned the lights off. The place I'd moved into was one of those sad, beige one-bedrooms in a crumbling 4-story walk-up downtown. A leftover from the 70s, too many previous tenants. Floors that creaked no matter how careful you walked. Ducts that wheezed like an old man clearing his throat, but rent was cheap. And after my last lease ended with mold poisoning and a screaming match with my ex-landlord, I was desperate. This place was technically clean, technically private, and the guy downstairs said it had character. He forgot to mention it also had someone or something living in the walls. By the third night, the scratching had evolved. It wasn't just in the kitchen anymore. It followed me in the vents, along the ceiling, through the walls. Wherever I went, I'd hear faint movement. Not animal-like scurrying, not chewing or squeaking. It sounded human. Slow crawling, shifting weight, fingertips brushing against duct metal. One night, I shut everything off, lights, TV, even the fridge hum, and just listened. The building groaned in that way old buildings do. And then I heard it. A breath. Close. It came from the vent near my bedroom ceiling. A dry, shivering exhale. As if someone was trying not to be heard. I left that night and slept in my car. The next morning, I convinced myself it was in my head. Auditory hallucination, maybe. I hadn't been sleeping well. Work stress, city noise, all of it combined. Maybe I needed a therapist, not an exterminator. But that day, while making coffee, I noticed something. On the kitchen counter, right below the air vent. Footprints. Tiny, bare footprints. Just 2. Like someone had stepped out of the vent with wet feet and disappeared. I touched one. Still damp. I called the landlord. He showed up 2 days later. This guy named Dennis. Probably in his 50s, wore tinted glasses indoors, and reeked of nicotine and lemon Lysol. I asked him point blank, "Is there any chance someone's in the ducts? Like a squatter? Or maybe someone broke in?" He snorted. "In the ducts? Buddy, you think I rent to squirrels?" I didn't laugh. He sighed and waved me toward the ceiling. "It's probably just the unsettling. These units weren't built for central air, so they retrofit the ductwork back in the early 2000s. It's loud. Gets worse with weather changes." "But I heard breathing," I said. "And look," he interrupted, "if there's someone crawling through the vents, they'd have to be like 80 pounds and double-jointed. That shit's not even wide enough for my cat." I stared up at the vent. It looked just wide enough for someone thin. Dennis didn't bother inspecting it. Just left me with a shrug and a call me if anything dies in there. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about those footprints. So I unscrewed the kitchen vent. Just 4 screws. Popped right off. The space behind it was a vertical shaft, narrow, dark, full of dust. I stuck my phone in with the flashlight on and took a video. Slowly tilting it upward. The footage was mostly static. Lint, cobwebs. But in the last second, right before I pulled the phone out, something shifted in the dark. I watched the clip back 6 times. It wasn't clear. Could have been a trick of the light, but I swear I saw a hand, fingers curling back into the darkness. After that, I stopped sleeping. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt something watching from the vents. Like I was under surveillance. Not just from one place, from everywhere. Bedroom, bathroom, even the hallway. Once, while brushing my teeth, I heard a voice, faint, "Cr Oki." It said, "You're loud." I dropped the toothbrush. I covered every vent with cardboard and duct tape. Didn't help. 2 nights later, I woke up to find the kitchen one peeled back, tape dangling like a loose band-aid. A trail of dust on the floor leading to the hallway. That same night, my bedroom closet door was open. I never leave it open. I started setting up a motion detecting camera app on my phone every night. Pointed at the hallway. Just in case. The next morning, all I had was a single photo saved at 3:41 a.m. It was blurry, but you could make out a figure, not fully visible. Just an outline. Thin, crawled low to the ground. One eye reflecting light, the shape of a hand reaching up toward the camera. I didn't show the landlord. I didn't call the cops. What would I say? Hey, I think someone lives in my walls and sneaks out at night to watch me sleep. I didn't even know if it was a person. One night, out of some mix of desperation and mania, I slid a note into the open kitchen vent. I wrote, "Who are you? Why are you doing this?" Then I waited. All night. I sat at the table in silence. At exactly 4:08 a.m. The note slid back out. New writing underneath mine. In shaky, tiny handwriting. "Because this is my home too." Part 2. After the note came back through the vent, I stopped pretending I was sane. I didn't go to work the next day. Didn't shower. Didn't eat. I just sat in the kitchen chair facing the vent, holding my phone like a weapon. Waiting for something else to come through. Nothing did. But the air felt different, heavier, like I wasn't alone in the apartment, even when I was the only one standing in it. I slept with the lights on, door locked, vents taped up tight again. And still, at 3:17 a.m., I woke up to the sound of breathing, not mine, right above me. When I opened my eyes, the vent above the bed was uncovered. A pair of fingers was curled just over the edge. Thin, dirty, not moving, just holding on, watching. I couldn't scream, couldn't move. I stared for what felt like minutes. Then slowly, the fingers withdrew. The breathing faded, but something dropped through the vent. Small object. It hit the foot of my bed with a soft thump. I didn't want to touch it, but curiosity won. It was a photo. A Polaroid. Blurry, but clear enough to make out. Me, sleeping. In this bed. Taken from above. From the vent. I moved out the next morning. Packed everything in one manic hour. Didn't bother folding clothes or labeling boxes. I just stuffed things in garbage bags, dragged them downstairs, and left my keys in the mailbox. No goodbye. No landlord call. I left the damn mattress behind. I got a month-to-month sublet uptown. Different building, different part of the city. Big windows, no air ducts. Just baseboard heaters and a stupid fake fireplace that clicks when it turns on. The first night, I couldn't sleep, obviously, but it wasn't until the second night that I heard it again. Not scratching, not breathing. Cough. From inside the wall behind the kitchen fridge. I laughed. Actually laughed. Out loud. Not because it was funny, but because it meant I wasn't free. I never had been. I pushed the fridge aside. Nothing behind it. No duct, no crawl space. Just cheap drywall. But that night, I found another note. Slipped under the bedroom door this time. Same shaky handwriting. "You left." That was rude. The next few weeks were chaos. Every place I went, friend's house, cafes, even a hotel once. Something followed. Sounds in the walls. Glimpses in the corners. My name whispered when no one else was around. I started hearing breathing in public bathrooms. In the elevator shaft. Once, even underneath the floorboards of my office. Wherever I went, it was already there. And then, The note stopped. For weeks, nothing. Just silence. I started to think maybe it had finally moved on. Until the last place. I got this new job out of state. A fresh start. It came with relocation and a month in corporate housing, a clean, nice little apartment with white walls and no ductwork. I was suspicious of it, of course, but after 2 weeks with no incidents, I started to relax. Until one night, I was unpacking some old books and found one I didn't remember owning. A hardcover journal, leather-bound, heavy. I opened it. The first page was blank. Second page, 2. Then I flipped to the third and froze. My name was written there. My full name. All caps. Underneath it, the words, "I am still here." I slammed it shut. And then from inside the closet came a soft knock. 3 times. Deliberate. Like someone knew I was standing just 10 feet away. Heart pounding, body frozen. I stood there for a full minute. Then slowly opened the closet. Nothing. No one. But on the top shelf, balanced carefully against the wall, was another Polaroid. Me again, not sleeping this time, sitting at the kitchen table. Last night, that was 2 days ago. I haven't unpacked the rest. I barely eat. I leave the lights on constantly. Sometimes I knock on the walls just to see if it knocks back. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it answers before I even knock. I think he's not in the vents anymore. I think he's in me. I see him when I brush my teeth, not in the mirror, but behind the mirror, watching, learning. My shoulders twitch in ways I don't recognize. My sleep gets shorter, shallower. My dreams, when I have them, always end in ducks, in tight crawl spaces, in cold air and metal hands. I feel him in my breath sometimes. Like we're sharing lungs. Last night, I coughed, and it wasn't my voice that came out. It was deeper, scratchier, like rust scraping down my throat. And then I laughed. Out loud, but it didn't feel like me laughing. Not completely. I woke up this morning with dust in my bed, not just a little, a full handful. Scattered across the sheets like something had climbed out of the vent. Or in. I checked every vent. All sealed. Still. The dust is there. So is the sound. So is the voice. I should have trusted my first instinct the moment I saw him in the hallway. It was late, maybe 11:45 p.m., and I had just gotten back from a shift at the bar. I was juggling takeout and keys when I noticed the guy from 5C standing in front of the mailboxes. Only, he wasn't checking his mail. He was just standing there, perfectly still, with his back to me. I slowed my steps, something in my chest tightening. He didn't move, didn't turn. He just stood there in complete silence, head slightly tilted forward, arms hanging at his sides. It took me a second to realize he was facing the wrong way. The mailboxes were behind him. He was staring directly at the wall. I cleared my throat, tried to play it normal. "Hey man, all good?" He didn't respond, didn't flinch, just slowly lifted one arm and touched the wall with his fingertips, like he was feeling for something only he could see. I stood there for a long moment, frozen with my key halfway in the lock. Then, without a word, he took one slow step backward, then another. He walked all the way down the hallway, backwards, never once turning around. That was the first time. The second time was weirder. It was a few nights later. I was getting ice cream from the corner store at 1 a.m. Don't judge. And as I came back in through the lobby, I saw him again, this time standing at the bottom of the staircase. Same posture, same silence, just standing there, staring up the stairs with his back to them. I stopped cold. He didn't move. Then, slowly, like he'd rehearsed it 1,000 times, he began climbing the stairs backwards. No stumbling, no feeling around, just perfect, silent backward steps, one at a time, up 3 flights of stairs. When he reached his floor, He disappeared into the dark hallway. Didn't say a word. I told myself maybe it was a medical thing. Some neurological issue. Or an attention thing, I don't know. People are weird. Especially in old buildings like mine. Still, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Especially because I never heard his voice. Never saw him during the day. Never heard music or footsteps from upstairs. Just nothing. Until I started hearing the dragging dot. It started about 2 weeks after that first night. I was in bed, dozing off, when I heard a heavy, slow dragging sound directly above me, like furniture scraping. Across the floor. At first, I figured he was moving stuff around. But then I noticed something strange. The dragging sound didn't move around the room. It just kept going in a straight line. Then stopped, then went again. And again. Back and forth. For hours, like someone pacing, but dragging something with them. Over and over and over again, I banged on the ceiling with a broom handle. No change. I yelled up, "Hey! It's like 2 a.m. Can you cut it out?" Nothing. No pause. No apology. Just the dragging. Eventually, I fell asleep. Somehow. The next morning, I went up to 5 Celsius and knocked. No answer. I knocked again. Still nothing. I pressed my ear to the door. No movement. No sound. I figured, fine, maybe he wasn't home. Or maybe he just didn't care. But as I turned to go, I noticed something weird about his doormat. It was reversed. Like someone had flipped it, so the welcome was upside down, facing inward toward the door. Not a big deal, I know. But it felt wrong. Like a message I didn't understand. I started paying attention after that. Little things. Every time I passed 5C, the doormat was flipped. The nameplate was blank. Like the name had been scratched off. No one ever came or went from the unit. No food delivery, no visitors, no lights under the door. But always, at night, that dragging. One night I couldn't take it anymore. I stomped upstairs at 3:30 a.m., banged on the door, and yelled, "Seriously, what are you doing up here? You're waking the whole floor." This time, I heard something behind the door. Not footsteps. Breathing. Shaky. Deliberate breathing, like someone was holding it in and letting it out in pieces. Backed away slowly. Didn't sleep that night. Things got worse after that. The dragging grew louder, and now I could hear something else between the movements. These strange, low clicks, like someone pressing their fingernail against the metal vent grate and slowly bending it. Tick, tick, tick. Always from above. Always in patterns. Sometimes fast, sometimes slow. Sometimes right above my bed. Then came the night I saw him outside my window. I live on the 4th floor. No balcony. Nothing to stand on. I was brushing my teeth around midnight, staring at nothing when I glanced up and froze. He was standing just outside the glass, back to me. Head tilted. No expression. No movement. I jumped back, heart pounding. Nearly slipped on the wet tile. When I looked again, he was gone. Nothing outside but the fire escape 4 feet away, which hadn't been used in decades and doesn't even connect to the windows. I didn't sleep. The next day, I went to the landlord. Her name's Joy. She lives in 2A and basically runs the building. Retired, pushy, always smells like lavender. When I asked about the guy in 5C, she immediately went pale. "You've seen him?" she asked. I nodded. "Yeah, why?" She hesitated for a long time, then said, "There's no one in 5C. That unit's been vacant for 2 years. Part 2. I laughed when she said it. Not because it was funny, but because my brain rejected it so fast. The only thing left to do was laugh like an idiot. "There's someone in 5C, I insisted. "I've seen him, Joy. He lives up there. He walks around all night. He drags furniture. He watches me." Joy shook her head firmly. No one has a lease to that unit. It's been empty since before the pandemic. But I've seen him. She held up a hand. Honey, what did he look like? I swallowed. The words felt heavy in my mouth. He walks backwards. Joy's entire expression shifted, like she had heard exactly that sentence before. Her eyes softened with something that looked like pity. Or fear. Then she whispered, don't interact with him. If you see him again, don't speak to him. Don't get close to him. Just go home. My throat tightened. Why? Who is he? She backed away a step. Just trust me. Leave it alone. I would have pressed harder, but she turned and walked off, practically fleeing down the hallway. I didn't know it then. But that was the moment I should have started packing. That night, the dragging didn't just get worse, it moved. At 1:12 a.m. I woke to the sound of furniture scraping across the ceiling. But not in the same straight line as before. Now it was moving from room to room, dragging across my bedroom, into the hallway, over the kitchen, above the bathroom. Then, slowly, making its way back again. As if tracing the layout of my unit through the ceiling. I sat up in bed, sheets damp with sweat. The ceiling creaked directly above me. Then I heard it. Footsteps. But backwards. Heel first. Then toe. My breath caught in my throat. I stared up at the ceiling, terrified that I'd see a shadow move across it. The air tasted metallic. My ears were ringing. A sudden, loud thud rattled the ceiling, like someone had dropped to their knees hard. I jumped out of bed, adrenaline blasting through me. Then the footsteps resumed, but slower. Closer. Following me, wherever I moved. They moved. I backed into the living room. Above me, heel toe. Heel toe. Heel toe. I moved again. They followed. No pause. No hesitation. Like a perfect mirror. I don't remember grabbing my hoodie, or my keys, or even opening the front door. I just remember running down the stairwell barefoot, heart slamming against my ribs like it was trying to climb out. I slept in my car that night in the parking lot of a 24-hour grocery store. The next morning, I went to work pretending everything was fine. It wasn't. When I got home that evening, the building felt wrong before I even stepped inside. Too quiet. And the lights in the hallway were buzzing. That sickly, flickering buzz fluorescent bulbs make right before they die. As I climbed to the 4th floor, my stomach twisted. There were footprints, bare footprints, on every step. Not mine. And all of them facing downward, as if someone had walked backward all the way upstairs. My throat went dry. I checked my own door. Everything looked normal. The lock was intact, but the doormat, which I always kept straight, was flipped upside down. Just like the one outside 5C. I froze. Something about that small detail hit harder than anything else. Like a warning. Like a claim. I stepped forward, hands shaking. And that's when I smelled it. Cologne perfume. That old, flowery, powdery perfume. Something your grandmother might wear. But I didn't know anyone in my building who smelled like that. Especially not a man. Backed away. That's when I heard it. A soft, faint whisper. Stop turning around. I whipped my head toward the sound, but the hallway was empty. Empty. Except for the end, where someone was standing far down by the exit. Door. Backwards. Head tilted, facing the wall. My lungs locked. He didn't move. Didn't turn. Didn't react. He just stood there. Toes pointing at the exit. Body facing the wall. Like he'd been waiting for me. But the thing that terrified me most wasn't him. It was the position of his feet. They were angled toward me. Backward. Like he had walked all the way down the hallway facing the opposite direction. My stomach flipped. I took one quiet step back. The figure tilted his head a few degrees more, neck cracking softly. Then, without turning, he took one step backward toward me. Heel. Then toe. I stumbled, nearly falling into my door. My hands shook so badly, I could barely get the key into the lock. He took another backward step. His movements slow and unnatural. Then another dot and another. I got the door open and flung myself inside. Slamming it shut and deadbolting it. My breath hitched. Silence. Then, muffled through the door. Footsteps. Heel. Toe. Heel. Toe. Stopping right outside my apartment. The wood gently creaked. My knees buckled. I stood there for what felt like 10 minutes straight. Palm pressed flat against the door like that alone could hold back whatever was on the other side. The night she moved out, the building felt quieter than it ever had before. Not peaceful. Not calm. Empty. Like something had been sucked out of the place. Like it was holding its breath. It had been 3 days since I last saw her. Not since the screaming match at the end of the hallway. Her voice echoing off the concrete like it was trying to tear through the walls. "I'm done," she'd shouted, then the sound of a door slamming. Hard enough to rattle mine. Then silence, and that was it. Camille was gone. Or so I thought. She lived in 3B. I live in 3A. Directly next door. Our apartments shared a bedroom wall, a bathroom pipe, and years of quiet glances in the hallway. We weren't close, but close enough that I knew her laugh. That sharp, glassy, high-pitched laugh that always came in short bursts. Like she couldn't hold it in. She laughed a lot. Sometimes alone. Sometimes on the phone with someone. The kind of laugh that was too full of life to be faked. And now that laugh was gone. Except it wasn't. Because 2 nights after she left, I heard it again. It was close to 1 a.m. I was finishing up a late shift, laptop open, dishes in the sink. 1 beer deep into nothing special. That's when I heard it. Muffled at first. Then clearer. That same high, breathy giggle. Through the bedroom wall. At first, I smiled. Then I froze, because I remembered she'd moved out, muted everything and leaned closer to the wall. The laugh came again, clearer this time. Like someone was sitting just on the other side, whispering a joke into someone else's ear, followed by a low voice. Male, unfamiliar, mumbled words I couldn't catch. Then her laugh again, sharp, quick, like glass clinking. I stood there listening for a full minute. Then, on instinct, I texted my landlord. Me, "Hey, did someone new move into 3B?" I didn't expect a reply that late, but he responded instantly. "Landlord, nope, still empty." I didn't sleep that night. Kept the TV on until sunrise. Tried to convince myself it was nothing. A neighbor upstairs, maybe, or sound bouncing from the courtyard. Buildings like this have weird acoustics, but it didn't explain what happened the next day. I came home from work around 5 p.m., tired, headache building. I tossed my bag on the couch and went to check the mail, and there it was. A package sitting outside Camille's old door. Small box. No label. Just her name written across the top in black Sharpie. Camille, 3BTH. Handwriting looked familiar. Too familiar. Like mine. I bent down and looked closer. The marker had bled a little, but the C, the E, even the slightly shaky M, it looked exactly like my handwriting. Same curve. Same pressure. I stood there a long time. Finally, I picked it up and turned it over. No return address. No postage. Nothing. Someone had hand-delivered it. I stared at her door. Still dusty. Still locked. Still dark behind the PEEPHOLE. Then I put the package back down and walked away. That night, I heard the laugh again. But this time, it was in my apartment. It came from the kitchen. I was brushing my teeth when I heard it. A light, stifled giggle. Like someone had just told a secret joke they weren't supposed to laugh at. I spit out the toothpaste and crept down the hall. Heart beating hard enough to hurt. There was no one there. The window was closed. The vent was silent, but something was different. A smell. Camille's perfume. That sweet, heavy scent. like sugared rose petals and spice. She used to wear it every day. I caught whiffs of it in the elevator sometimes, lingering after she stepped off. Now it filled my kitchen. I backed out slowly. I tried not to panic. I told myself. I was tired, stressed, working too much. Brains do weird things when they're lonely and burnt out. But then the laughter kept coming. Always at night. Always that same pattern. Like someone was telling her a joke behind the wall. A voice I didn't recognize, followed by her unmistakable, breathy giggle. Sometimes I'd hear it from the bathroom. Once, it came from inside my closet, just a faint sound, almost playful. Then gone, and the worst part? I started laughing back, not because it was funny, because I was scared. One night I knocked on 3 B's. Door at 2 a.m. 3 hard knocks. I held my breath. Nothing. Then I leaned in and whispered, "Camille?" There was no response, but I swear, I heard breathing from the other side. Not fast, not panicked. Waiting. The next morning, there was another package outside her door, smaller this time. Square. Same handwriting, still no label, this time. I brought it inside. I told myself it was to investigate, to prove something wasn't right, but part of me just wanted it to be from her. I didn't open it right away. I left it on the table, circled it for hours. Finally, around midnight, I cut the tape. Inside was a lipstick, same shade Camille used to wear, deep red, slightly cracked, like it had been used recently. I lifted it out with shaking fingers, and underneath it, something even stranger, a Polaroid of my hallway, dated 2 nights ago. And in the photo, barely visible, was the edge of someone's shoulder just disappearing around the corner. The shape of their hair looked like hers. I'm writing this now because I need to record what happened next. In case I forget, or start pretending it didn't happen, or in case it happens again. That night, I woke up to laughter, but not from next door. From inside my bedroom. Part 2. I woke up to the sound of someone laughing at the foot of my bed. Not loud, not hysterical. Soft, breathless. Exactly the way Camille used to laugh when she thought she shouldn't. My body went cold first, like my blood was freezing before the rest of me registered what was happening. I didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't even open my eyes at first. I just listened, because it wasn't just her laugh this time. Someone else was laughing with her. A low voice, a man's voice, same one I'd been hearing through the wall for weeks. They sounded like they were leaning close to each other, whispering, then laughing, then whispering again. Like 2 people sharing a moment. In my bedroom, right next to me. My heart hammered so hard, the mattress vibrated beneath my rib cage. Finally, slowly, I opened my eyes. The room was dark. Nothing moved. The door was still closed. The air was stale and heavy. The laughing stopped instantly, but the smell hit me. That perfume again, stronger this time, thick, sweet, clinging to the air like humidity. I sat up, chest tight. "Camille?" My voice was barely a whisper, but someone whispered back, "She." A hush, right next to my ear, like lips brushing my hair. I scrambled out of bed so fast I tripped over the knitstand. My lamp shattered. The room plunged even darker, but I didn't care. I just needed to get out. Out of the room. Out of the apartment. But as I reached for the doorknob, something giggled again, soft, breathy, playful, behind my back. I didn't look. I ran. I spent the rest of the night in my car, shaking. Locked in the back seat like that would stop something that followed me through walls. At sunrise, I went back upstairs. The hallway was quiet. No perfume. No packages this time. For a moment, I convinced myself it had all been sleep paralysis, stress, my mind snapping a little under, too much noise and not enough rest. But when I opened my apartment door, the lipstick was on the floor. Open. Pressed into the wood. A Smear of deep red leading from the table toward my bedroom, as if someone had dragged it along the floor, tracing a path. And beside the smear was another. Polaroid. This one was of me sleeping, taken. From the foot of the bed, exactly. Where I heard the laughter from my hands shook. So hard I nearly dropped it. Something inside me broke. I grabbed my keys and wallet and walked straight out the door, ready to move out and never look back. I didn't even pack clothes, but as I reached the stairs, I saw her. She was standing at the far end of the hallway. Camille. Or some version of her. Her back was turned, hair hanging down the same way she always wore it. Same frame, same posture. She was wearing the robe she used to wear on weekends, the light pink one. She'd take her trash out in. I froze mid-step. Camille? I whispered. She didn't move, didn't turn, didn't breathe. I stepped closer. She tilted her head slightly, not enough to see her face, but enough to show she heard me. My throat tightened. Are you okay? My voice cracked. Then she laughed. That same laugh I'd spent weeks hearing through the walls. Except this time, it sounded wrong. Too sharp. Too hollow. Too close. I stepped back instinctively. She took a step too, backward, copying me. I took another step. She mirrored it. Perfectly sensed. Then she whispered, voice thin, airy. All wrong, you left me. A chill shot from my spine to my scalp. I didn't. I started, but the words stuck in my throat because she started walking toward me, still backward, still facing away. Bare feet whispering against the carpet, but her shoulders were trembling. At first I thought she was crying, until I realized she was laughing. Shaking with laughter. That awful, breathy giggle spilling out of her like she couldn't control it. I bolted, didn't wait to see her face. I sprinted down the stairs, taking them 3 at a time until I hit the lobby door so hard it bounced. I didn't stop running until I reached my car. I drove for an hour with the windows cracked just to breathe air that wasn't hers. I moved out that same day. Called the landlord once, told him I was leaving. Didn't give a reason. He didn't ask. I didn't sleep for 2 nights straight. Didn't even have nightmares. Just kept thinking of her standing there, backward, copying my movements, laughing. I'm in a new place now, new building, new neighbors. Nothing shared through the walls. But the quiet isn't comforting. It's oppressive, like something is waiting for the right moment to break through. And that moment came last night. It started with a stain, not a dramatic one. Just a faint, reddish smudge on the wall behind my couch. I only noticed it because I dropped my phone one night and it bounced behind the cushions. When I pulled the couch out to grab it, I saw it, a dark, almost dried-looking patch, about the size of a handprint. Looked like rust at first. Or maybe dried juice, but I don't drink juice. And I definitely didn't spill anything behind the couch. I leaned in, turned on my flashlight, and ran my fingers over the spot. It felt tacky. Still wet in the center. Weirdest part? It was warm, not room temp. Warm. I live in a studio apartment on the 3rd floor of a building that's old enough to have radiator heat, but not old enough to be charming. You know the kind, cracking paint, weird angles, everything echoes more than it should. Rent's decent though. And until that night, I didn't have much to complain about. But once I saw that stain, I couldn't unsee it. I cleaned it off with a paper towel. Took some scrubbing, but it came off. The towel came away red-brown. No smell. No weird texture. Just unsettling. I moved the couch back and tried to forget it. Didn't work, because the next morning, it was back. Same size. Same shape. Same exact spot. Only this time, it had dripped. Just a little. Like one thick drop had slid downward and stopped. I didn't tell anyone at first. Who would I even tell? My landlord, Frank, is the kind of guy who uses duct tape as a solution for plumbing. If I told him my wall was bleeding, he'd probably charge me for repainting. So I left it alone, wiped it down again, didn't look at it for the rest of the day. But later that night, around 1 a.m., I was sitting on the edge of my bed, scrolling mindlessly, when I heard something strange, a wet pop from across the room, like something thick and soft being pulled off a surface. Turned the light on. The stain was bigger. Twice the size it had been before. Deeper red. And this time, there was a smell. Faint. Metallic, like old coins left in a damp drawer. That was the first night I slept with the lights on. The next morning, I knocked on the unit next to mine. 3C, the wall where the stain was, shared that apartment, and I wanted to know if they had seen anything. No answer. I tried again later. Still nothing. Eventually, I asked Frank about it. He scratched his beard and said, 3C? That unit's been vacant since March. You're the only tenant on this side right now. I asked if I could look inside. He shrugged. Keys floating around somewhere. But it's empty, I promise. Then added, unless raccoons learn how to bleed through drywall, I'm not your guy. He laughed. I didn't. That night I peeled the paint. I know how that sounds. But I couldn't take it anymore. The stain had grown again, this time below the original spot. A second bleed, maybe 6 inches down. And I swear, when I leaned in close enough, I could hear something behind the wall. Not words, just murmurs. Like voices underwater. So I grabbed a utility knife and started carving into the drywall. First in small lines, then bigger chunks. The smell hit me immediately, stronger now, sharp and rotten sweet. Like something had been sealed in. The drywall behind the paint was damp, soft. And once I pulled away enough, I found something wedged between the beams. A torn piece of fabric. Dark, molded, stained, looked like the shoulder of a coat. Still had a button attached. I pulled it out and nearly gagged. The fabric was soaked through with the same reddish-brown liquid. And etched into the back of the drywall, behind where the fabric had been stuffed. 3 words, she's still there. I slept in the bathtub that night. Door locked. Lights on. In the morning, I went back to Frank. This time, I didn't ask. I demanded, I want to see inside 3C, today. Frank frowned. You're not supposed to. I'll pay you $50. He blinked. 10 minutes later, he had the key. 3C was colder than my apartment. It felt like someone had left a window open in the middle of winter, even though we were in the middle of October. Dust floated in long, lazy beams of light from the half-shut blinds. But what really got me was the wall. My wall. It was perfectly clean. No stain. No mold. No holes. Just old beige paint. Except there were nails, dozens of them. Not in any pattern. Just scattered across the entire wall, hammered in halfway, like someone started putting something up, then stopped, or changed their mind. When I looked closer, I noticed deep scratches around a few of them, like someone had tried to pull them out and failed. Back in my unit, I peeled back more of the wall. Underneath the insulation, there were more scraps of fabric, more faint writing. Different messages. No one believed her. She won't stop. I tried to leave too. I couldn't tell if it was one person writing or multiple. The scrawl changed slightly each time. Some looked rushed, others careful, but they were all written in the same spot, behind the bleed. That night, I set up my phone camera to record while I slept. Just facing the wall. Nothing fancy. Just something to prove to myself I wasn't crazy. The next morning, I checked the footage. 6 hours of stillness. Until 3:42 a.m. Then the camera glitch, ed. Not skipped. glitched. The picture warped for 2 full seconds. Then cleared. And in those 2 seconds, the wall was wet, like something pulsing just beneath the paint. And right before it glitched back, a handprint appeared in the center of the frame, pressed against the wall, palm down. fingers long, too long. Then, gone. I didn't go to work that day, didn't leave the apartment, didn't shower. I sat by the wall all morning, just listening. At 11:14 a.m., I heard it again. Whispering. Too low to make out words, but constant, like a loop. And beneath the whispers, crying, muffled, guttural. Someone trapped in the walls. I texted a friend, Sarah, to come over. She's the only one I trust to see something like this and not assume I'm high or losing it. She came that evening. I showed her the footage, the hole in the wall, the fabric, the messages. She didn't laugh. She just said, "This isn't normal. This feels personal." Then she looked at the stain and said something that gave me goosebumps. "That looks like blood trying to push through." That night we stayed up, both of us, recording, waiting. And at 3:46 a.m., the bleeding started while we were watching. Right in front of us. No sound. No cracking. Just slow, thick droplets of red seeping through the drywall, running down like sweat. And in the center of the wall, just for a second, it looked like something moved. Part 2, we both stared at the wall, not moving. The bleeding didn't drip, it oozed. Thick, sluggish trails of red slowly creeping down the drywall, spreading in narrow lines. Sarah whispered, "That's not paint. That's, I know." I moved closer, drawn in like it was magnetic. My pulse thudded in my ears. Every instinct screamed, "Don't touch it." But I reached out anyway. I tapped my finger against the stream. Warm, sticky, real. I staggered back and wiped my hand on my jeans, but the stain was already there. Soaking in, behind me, Sarah muttered, "Did you see it move?" I nodded. Neither of us slept. In the morning, we checked the video footage. The camera caught everything: the bleeding, the shimmer in the wall, the faint ripples in the drywall, like something underneath had shifted. Breathed. But the most disturbing thing at the end of the video. As the bleeding slowed, the camera caught something that neither of us noticed in real time: a face, for just a moment. The light caught a faint outline, as if the wall had warped around it. Eyes, a nose, mouth wide open, not screaming. Just watching. Sarah paused the video. We sat in silence for a full minute, staring at the image. Then she said, "You need to leave." I didn't. I should have, but something in me couldn't let go. I kept thinking, if there's someone in there, what if they're alive? What if they're trapped? What if this is a cry for help and no one listened? So I went deeper. I cleared the furniture, stripped more drywall, cut away insulation until I exposed the beams. Behind one of them, I found something small and metal wedged between the boards. I pried it loose. A key, rusted, tiny, with the number 3C etched into it. That night, I went back into 3C. Frank hadn't changed the locks. The unit was colder than before. The air was thick still. Sour. This time I came with a hammer, flashlight, and zero patience. I started tapping along the shared wall, listening for hollow spots. Found one near the far corner, behind what used to be a bookshelf. The drywall was already warped slightly, bulged outward, like something had been pressing from the inside. I started swinging. Behind the wall was a void. A narrow gap, wider than I expected, about 3 feet deep, stretching from floor to ceiling. Full of insulation, dust, and something else. Fabric, layers of it, pressed flat into the back wall like a curtain. When I reached in to pull it out, it crumbled in my hands. Old clothes, soaked, molded. That I found bones. Thin, fragile, tucked between the insulation and beams, wrapped in fabric. Tiny hand bones, ribs. Sarah gagged and backed away. Me? I couldn't move. Something about the size of the skeleton. The way it was curled up, it looked like it had been placed there. Hidden. Buried. And then I found the locket, wedged beneath the rib cage. I wiped it. Clean. Inside was a photo. Camille. The P name was etched on the Back in script. I don't know how long I sat there, just staring at the bones, trying to understand what I was looking at. Then the laughter started again, from both units at once. My apartment and 3C echoing back and forth like a stereo, that same soft, breathless giggle I'd heard for weeks, but now it sounded closer. Less playful, hungrier. The first time my neighbor told me I was dead, it was 6:12 in the morning and I was taking out the trash. I was half asleep, hoodie half zipped, holding a bag that smelled like old takeout. The hallway lights were buzzing overhead, that flicker that makes the whole world feel off. When Mr. Patel from 5A stepped out of his apartment, he was usually calm, soft-spoken, polite. The kind of old man who watered fake plants and waved at delivery drivers. But not that morning. That morning, he froze the second he saw me, his face drained. His hands shook. The trash bag he was carrying hit the floor without him noticing. "You shouldn't be here," he whispered. I blinked. "Sorry, didn't mean to scare you. You died," he said, voice trembling. "You died in 2019. I stood there holding a dripping, hefty bag, heart stuttering. "What?" He backed up until his shoulders hit the wall. "I saw you. They carried you out. Your face was..." He stopped suddenly, eyes darting to something behind me. No. Not again." And then he shut his door hard, locked it, double locked it. I heard furniture scraping across the floor as he shoved something against it. All while I stood there staring like an idiot, trying to understand what the hell he just said. I died? In 2019? I wasn't even living here in 2019. I didn't even live in this city in 2019. I shook it off, took out my trash, and tried to convince myself he was just confused. Dementia maybe, or mistaken identity, or maybe he had a nightmare and projected a face onto me. But what I couldn't shake was the look in his eyes. That wasn't confusion. That was recognition. That day, little things started to happen, nothing dramatic. Just off. My work ID wouldn't scan even though it was fine the day before. My debit card got declined twice at the same store I use every week. My phone's face unlock kept failing until I manually typed in the code, like tiny pieces of my identity were slipping or being erased. By lunchtime, I wasn't hungry anymore. My hands were shaking. My stomach felt hollow. At 3 p.m., I got a call from a number labeled unknown. When I answered, no one spoke, but I heard breathing. Slow, familiar, and then a voice, muffled and low, whispered, "Where are you buried?" I hung up, blocked the number. But my own reflection in the black screen looked strange, like the lighting hit me wrong. Or like I was looking at a version of myself I didn't remember becoming. By the time I got home that evening, the hallway felt colder than usual. Not temperature cold, presence cold. Like someone was standing just behind me the entire walk up the stairs. Outside 5A, Mr. Patel had taped a piece of paper to his door, messy handwriting, shaky letters. Do not speak to the boy in 5C. He is not alive. Don't live in 5C. I live in 3B. That should have made me feel better. It didn't. When I got to my own door, I noticed something stuck in the frame, a funeral pamphlet. I froze. It was folded in half. Old, printed on cheap, glossy paper. My name was on the front. The date? March 17th, 2019. My stomach dropped so fast, I had to grab the doorknob to steady myself. The photo wasn't me. Not exactly. It looked like me. Enough to be disturbing, but older, tired, hair shorter, face thinner. Dead-eyed. Cause of death. Unspecified accident. I dropped the pamphlet and scrambled inside my apartment, locking the door behind me. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I paced the living room, breathing too fast, trying to logic my way out of it. Fake pamphlet, prank, photoshopped, someone playing a sick joke, coincidence. But the smell hit me next. A faint, earthy smell, like dirt. Grave dirt, coming from inside my bedroom. I approached the doorway slowly. The smell got stronger when I stepped inside. Something crunched under my shoe. Turned on the light. There was a trail of dirt leading from my closet to the foot of my bed. Not normal brown dirt. Dark. Soil. Wet. Fresh. I backed out of the room so fast I hit the doorframe. No one else has keys to my place. No one comes inside. No one could have broken in without setting off the alarm. I stood in the hallway, heart pounding, staring into the bedroom. Then, from inside the closet, I heard someone breathing, shallow, uneven, like lungs that didn't work right. I whispered, "Who's in there?" The breathing paused. Then my voice, whispered back, "You are." I ran out of the bedroom, out of the apartment, down the hallway and into the stairwell so fast my vision went blurry. I didn't stop until I reached the outside courtyard, where the cold air hit me like a slap. I sat on a bench and tried to breathe normally again. Tried to convince myself I imagined the voice, that it wasn't my voice, that nothing about this was real. After maybe 10 minutes, my phone buzzed, a text from my own number. No message, just a video. I tapped it open with trembling fingers. It was footage of me sleeping, taken last night. In my bedroom. Angle low from the floor, like someone was lying under the bed and filmed me through the gap. And in the video, around the 18-second mark, something crawled out from behind the closet door. Shape. Thin, bent, slow, and wrong. It crawled to the foot of my bed. Then it lifted its head and I saw my own face. Pale. Sunken. Mud smeared across the cheekbones. Eyes hollow, lips cracked. Not smiling, not frowning. Just watching me sleep. The video ended with the thing whispering, in a voice that made my blood turn solid, "You weren't supposed to leave." I didn't go back inside. Not that night. Alone. The next morning, I knocked on Mr. Patel's door. He didn't open it. Just spoke through the wood, voice cracking with fear. "You need to leave now." "Tell me why," I begged. "Please, what did you mean when you said I died?" He was silent for a long time. Then he whispered, "You were buried." But something else came back. My mouth went dry. "What does that mean?" But he wouldn't say anything else. Just started crying. Soft, broken sobs. Like remembering hurt him. Like looking at me hurt him. That night. Last night. Everything escalated. Fast. I was lying on the couch, lights off, staring at the ceiling, trying not to fall asleep because I was terrified what I'd wake up to. When I heard it again. Breathing. From inside the walls. Not human breathing. Labored, wet, rattling like broken ribs grinding together. I whispered into the dark, "What are you?" And the wall answered. Not loud, not dramatic. Just a faint whisper, so close I felt the air move against my ear. Even though no one was there, "I'm you." The drywall bulged, just slightly. Enough to see the outline of a hand press outward. Thin. Fingers, mud-caked, trembling. Then a second hand. Then the faint imprint of a face. My face, pressed against the inside of the wall. Smiling. I ran out of the apartment again, slammed the door, and didn't look back. I'm writing this now from the stairwell 2 floors down, because the hall lights here feel less terrifying than the dark inside my unit. But something happened a few minutes ago that made my stomach drop. Footsteps on the stairs above me. Slow. Dragging. Bare. I looked up. There was dirt on the steps. Fresh. Damp. Leading downward, toward me, and somewhere above. In the stairwell darkness, a voice that sounded like mine whispered, "We weren't supposed to split." Part 2. The footsteps on the stairs stopped about 1 floor above me. Not abruptly. Not like someone froze. More like whoever, whatever, was coming down simply paused to listen. To me, to my breathing. My heart kicked so hard. I thought it might bruise my ribs. I pressed myself against the cold concrete wall and held my breath like a kid hiding from a nightmare. Then I heard my own voice echo down the stairwell. Come back, not shouted. Not angry, almost pleading. I bolted, ran down the remaining flights. Nearly slipping twice, burst out the side exit into the cold night air like I'd been drowning. Inside the building, I didn't look behind me. I didn't dare. I slept. In my car again, or tried to, but every shadow on the sidewalk looked like it wanted to crawl into my window. Every passerby felt like they stared too long. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that thing, that version of me, pulling itself through the drywall like wet soil, around 4:20 a.m. When exhaustion finally hit, I dreamed. In the dream, I was lying in a shallow pit, dirt covering my shoes, my clothes, my mouth. The air tasted like mud, like panic. Above me, someone was shoveling, someone humming, a tune I recognized but couldn't place. When I finally forced my head above the dirt line, I saw who was burying me. Me. Smiling. I jolted awake with my throat burning, coughing soil that wasn't really there. At sunrise, I forced myself back inside the building. Not to go to my apartment, I couldn't, but to talk to someone. Anyone. I knocked on 5 harder this time. No answer. I knocked on 5B5D4C4D. No one answered. For a moment, I had the sickening thought that maybe I was dead, and everyone had just finally stopped pretending I was real. But then a door opened behind me. A woman from 4A. Someone I'd only seen once or twice. Her eyes darted nervously. Are you the one Mr. Patel keeps talking about? My stomach twisted. What did he say? She hesitated. He said you shouldn't be here. That he saw your body once. Okay, I said, swallowing hard. Please just tell me, did someone die in this building in 2019? Someone who looked like me. She frowned. No one died in this building in 2019. Relief flickered in my chest. But she wasn't finished. Then she said, not here. The body they found was next door, in the building they tore down. And yeah, he did look like you. My mouth went dry. How do you know that? She looked down at her slippers. I used to live there. Before the fire. Fire? What fire? But before I could ask more, she stepped back and shook her head. I don't want to talk about it. I'm sorry. She shut the door, locked it. Silence swallowed the hallway again. I used to joke that the worst part of my apartment was the window facing the building across the alley. Not the creaky plumbing. Not the walls thin enough to hear a neighbor sneeze. The window. It sits directly opposite another building, about 15 feet away, and every night, without fail, the lights in the unit across from mine blink on. Same room. Same time, same single window. 3rd floor. Directly across from mine. That in itself isn't weird. People have routines, but what made it unsettling, what still makes it unsettling, is that there's always someone in the window. Every night. When I'm winding down, brushing my teeth, setting my alarm. Whatever. I glance across the alley, and she's there. A woman, just standing at the glass, still, watching, not blinking. Sometimes, I can only see her silhouette. Other nights, the light is on behind her, and I can make out more detail. Long black hair, pale skin, a sleeveless dress that always looks slightly damp. Like she just stepped out of the rain. She never moves. She never opens the window. She just stands there. Watching. At first, I thought it was creepy, but harmless. Maybe she's waiting for someone. Maybe she's a night owl. Maybe she's a weirdo who likes staring into space. I even waved once. No reaction. Just blank-eyed staring. After a while, I started closing my curtains. Not because I was scared, not yet, but because it was distracting. Something about her made it impossible to focus. Like the longer I looked at her, the harder it was to remember what I was doing in the first place. Then, I started seeing her in my dreams, always through glass, always watching. One night, I stayed up late playing a game with friends. Around 2 a.m., I went to grab water, and out of habit, peeked through the curtains. She was gone. First time in weeks that the window across from mine was empty. I actually felt relieved, but not even 30 seconds later, I got a text. Unknown number, no message. Just an image, a photo of me, sleeping, taken from outside the window. I dropped the phone, my chest seized up. My skin turned cold. I whipped around to check the window, still closed. Curtains only slightly open. I crept forward and peeked out. She was back, standing there, just like before, except this time. She was smiling, small, faint, barely there. Smile, her head tilted just slightly, like she knew what I'd seen, like she'd sent it. I called the building across the alley the next day. Didn't mention her, just said I was a concerned neighbor and wanted to report possible suspicious activity in one of their units. The front desk clerk was nice enough. Said, which unit? Third floor. Window directly across from mine. A pause, then, that unit's vacant. My heart dropped. No, there's someone there every night. She checked again. Sorry, it's been empty for over a year. Maintenance goes in sometimes, but it's not occupied. I asked a friend to come stay over. My friend Nora doesn't scare easy. Former military, hyper-rational. She came by that night. We ordered Thai, played some cards, tried to keep things light. I told her about the woman across the alley, left out the creepier details. Just wanted her to see it. Around midnight, I gestured toward the curtains. Check it out. Third floor, across from us. She peeked. Double quotes. No one there. I blinked. What? Windows dark. I pulled the curtain aside. She was gone again. I laughed, nervously. She's usually there by now. Just give it a minute. We waited. Nothing. The window stayed dark all night. But when I woke up the next morning, Nora was gone. I found a note on the counter. Hey, I had to bail early. Sorry, couldn't sleep. That mirror thing freaked me out. You should get rid of it. I stared at the note for a long time. Because I don't own a mirror in the living room. I never have. That night, I searched the entire apartment for hidden cameras, ripped apart every outlet, checked the vents, even pried open the smoke detector. Nothing. But around 2:30 a.m., just as I was about to give up and try to sleep, I heard a sound I can't unhear. Tap, tap, tap. From the window. 3 soft knocks, like fingernails. I didn't want to look, but I did. Of course I did. She was standing right outside. No glass, no distance, no 15-foot alley. Just her, standing on my fire escape, inches from the glass, tapping with her knuckle, her eyes locked on mine, expression flat. And then, without blinking, she mouthed, "Let me in." I fell backward, crawled away like a horror movie idiot, slammed into the kitchen table, knocked over a chair, but by the time I stood up again and turned back around, she was gone. No trace. No footprints on the glass. No sound. The next day, I went across the alley. Found the building manager. I begged him to let me into the vacant unit on the 3rd floor. He said it was against policy. I offered him $100 cash. That changed his mind. The unit was empty, dusty, cold, smelled like mildew and wet plaster. No furniture, no curtains, no signs of life. But the moment I stepped inside, I felt it, that weight, that pressure behind the eyes, that quiet, knowing that something was watching from the corner, even when nothing was there. I walked over to the window, the one that faced mine. I stood where she stands, looked into my own apartment from the other side. Then I saw something taped to the glass from the inside. Leaned in. It was a Polaroid of M. Standing in the window. Eyes closed, mouth open. As if I were sleeping on my feet, and scrawled in red across the bottom, "She likes when you're still." Part 2. I stood there staring at the Polaroid, taped inside her window. My own window. Same angle, same lighting, same apartment. Except in the picture, my eyes were closed, like I was sleepwalking or unconscious, standing still in the dead center of my room. I don't sleepwalk. I never have. And the scrawled message, "She likes when you're still," felt like a threat, or a rule, or a warning. I reached out with shaking fingers and peeled the Polaroid off the glass. The tape came away with a soft ripping sound. Too loud in the empty room. Behind the photo, someone had scratched words directly into the glass. Tiny, jagged letters, "Don't turn around." I froze. Every muscle in my body locked. Cold crept up my spine. Slow and heavy, like someone dragging a knife along my bones. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Then, behind me, I heard it. The tap. 3 soft, deliberate taps, just like before. Tap, tap, tap. But this time, it came from inside the room. Behind me. Not the window. Not the hallway. Inside the empty unit. My pulse thudded loud enough to drown everything else out. I didn't turn around. Coldn, single quotes T. Something shuffled on the floorboards. Light, bare feet, slowly approaching. I could feel her. Not warmth, not presence. Cold. Like something dead was hovering just inches from my back. Then a soft voice, a woman's voice, breathy and wrong, whispered, "Let me see." My throat tightened. I squeezed my eyes shut. Another tap, this time right next to my shoulder. Then the voice again, closer now. "Turn around." I bolted, didn't look, didn't breathe, didn't think. I sprinted out of the room, slammed the door, shoved the confused building manager aside, and ran down the stairs until my legs felt like they'd split. I didn't stop until I was outside. Gasping, hands on my knees, trying not to throw up. The manager followed me out, angry and out of breath. What the hell was that about? There's someone in that room," I panted. He shook his head. "Dude, that unit's sealed. No one's been in there all year." My vision blurred at the edges. He said more words I didn't hear. Because behind him, in the 3rd floor window, she was watching, hair draped over her shoulders, face pressed to the glass, eyes locked on me. Smiling. I didn't go home. I got a hotel room on the other side of town. One without a window facing anything but a brick wall. I showered twice, slept with the lights on, tried to convince myself she couldn't follow me here. But the second night, at exactly 2:37 a.m., someone knocked on my hotel door. 3 soft taps. Tap, tap, tap. I didn't answer, didn't move, just pressed my hand over my mouth and tried to stay silent. After a long moment, something slid under the door. A Polaroid. I crawled toward it, hands shaking, and picked it up. Another picture of me sleeping, taken from inches away. Flash reflected in my open eyes, meaning I wasn't asleep, meaning whoever took it was in the room while I was lying there, frozen, unblinking, unaware. I checked the door chain, still locked. I checked the window, still sealed shut. But behind the curtains, a faint smell, like wet hair and cold skin. And on the window glass, almost invisible until the light hit it, condensation marks. As if someone had pressed their forehead against it, watching me. I didn't sleep the rest of the night, didn't shower, didn't blink unless I had to. By sunrise, I packed and left before housekeeping even made their rounds. I rented a new Airbnb across town, a basement suite with tiny windows barely big enough for light. Hidden. Safe. Or so I thought. That night, I woke up gasping, feeling like someone had been hovering over me. I checked the room. Nothing. Just shadows from the mini fridge. LED. I stepped into the bathroom and splashed water on my face. When I looked up into the mirror, there was a second reflection behind me, a woman, standing just beyond the doorway's dark frame. Head tilted. Hair dripping. Eyes open too wide, watching me. I spun around. No one. Silence. My skin crawled. The mirror fogged slightly as I breathed. Wiped it with my palm. And in the thin film of moisture, words appeared. I found you. Not written. Revealed. Like someone had pressed their finger into the mirror earlier, and the oils re-emerged in the steam. I stumbled backward. The light flickered. A shadow passed behind me. The faucet turned on by itself, then off. Then the light died, leaving me in pitch black. A whisper slid right up against my ear. "I like when you sleep." Something ice cold brushed my wrist. I ran.